Ladies and gentlemen, the next session, the Internet of Things, Opportunities and Obstacles in a Connected World, is sponsored by Meyer. Please welcome the founder and Chief Executive Officer of Start Garden, Rick DeVos. Vice President, Innovation and Ventures, Faurecia, Rob Huber. Chief Executive Officer of JR Automation, Bryan Jones. Chief Executive Officer and founder of Modustri, Brian Steketee. And to moderate the discussion, please welcome the Principal of Thoughtful Design, Tom DeVries.
How's everybody doing? All right. The Internet of Things. We've heard a few references of it already. Forbes published an interesting statistic last year. They said 87% of Americans have never heard the term Internet of Things. I could hardly believe it. I don't know what that does to you guys, but I was astonished by it. I hear it so frequently in the course of my work. So I started asking around and seeing what people really thought, friends, family, clients. Turns out it's pretty accurate. A lot of people don't know. That means that we're probably not all on the same page about it here. We might have varying understanding of it and not even know a definition. So I want to open with a few facts and framing the conversation for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to hand things over to the panel and guide a discussion as we talk about its potential impact on Michigan, its businesses, and the economy. Some facts. In 2008, we crossed this threshold, the threshold where we had more objects connected to the internet in this world than we do people on planet Earth. The number was at about 6.7 billion objects and people at that point. Last year, the number of connected objects to the internet was around 9 billion, dramatically outpacing population growth. By 2020, most estimates land the number around 50 billion items connected to the internet. 50 billion. Just think about that for a second. It's hard to imagine. What does this mean for Michigan's economy? How do we react and respond to this? It's astonishing. So the Internet of Things, generally stated, there are lots of definitions, variations on how we could define it or talk about it, but roughly it means this. It's a world where objects and environments sense information, communicate to each other, respond to each other, and to people, all by being connected to the internet. So objects aren't just connected to the internet, they're also connected to each other by being connected to the internet. This idea is in its infancy, yet it manages to keep countless executives awake at night for one of two reasons. Either an overwhelming opportunism for how we can tame it and turn it into business opportunities, economic opportunities, and for others, they quell in fear of being steamrolled by it. I hear about both sides of the story in interacting with my clients. I work as a design strategist, which at its basic, in the most basic manner means I get called into organizations most frequently when the traditional management paradigm breaks down. Something isn't working the way we expected it to based on management practice. And they're looking for a creative way to think about it and approach it. This puts me in an interesting circumstance because leaders of organizations talk about things, people who have become extremely successful by knowing what to do, they're often standing in front of me saying, something's different. I'm just not sure how to approach this. And if I summarize what they talk about, not what they say, but what's between the lines of what they say, it would sound something like this. The rules of business are fundamentally changing, and I'm not sure what the new rules are. The symptoms they describe sound like the following statements, and each of them either directly or indirectly links up to the Internet of Things. They say things like these. The rate of change in the marketplace is crippling us. Companies used to have the power, now it feels like customers do. How did that happen? We have all this technology, but our customers don't value it, and we don't really know what to do with it. We know we need to deliver better customer experiences, but we make products. How on earth do we do that? Our infrastructure used to be our advantage. Now it just makes us slow. And probably my favorite, it's an actual quote, we used to make stuff, now we have to make software and connect everything to the internet too. It's just so complicated. What they're describing is a shift in business. A shift from a world where businesses produce an offering and people organize around it, to a world where businesses need to constantly adapt to emerging technology and to changing consumer behavior. They're defining a need for a more adaptive organization, one that can respond to emerging tech and emerging and evolving customer needs simultaneously and continuously. One of, if not the, primary driving force in this transition is the Internet of Things. As we said earlier, it's in its infancy. It's known as the third wave of the Internet. The first wave was personal computers being connected to the Internet. And it transformed society. It transformed the way we do business. It transformed the way we shop. Everything. The second wave was smartphones and tablets becoming connected to the Internet. It's transformed us again. And it's noteworthy that many organizations haven't even begun to catch up with the wave of mobile coming online. The third wave is the Internet of Things, and that's when everything else becomes connected to the Internet. Even the hammer you saw on the slide in the not too distant future will probably be connected to the Internet and tracking information about how many times that hammer hits a nail. And someone will find a way to derive value out of that information. This transition of the Internet of Things, of everything becoming connected to the Internet, it'll transform our society, it'll transform the way we do business. But ironically, it's going to require new policies. It's going to require new business models and behaviors, new structures in how we approach challenges. To me, it all adds up to one simple statement. The Internet of Things is happening, but it's either being enabled by you or it's happening to you. Our panelists are the brave souls who are going into the great unknown and making it happen. So I'd like to open up with a question. I guess less of a question, but more of just an opening statement of what is your organization and what are you doing in the Internet of Things and why have you chosen to play there? Rick, would you get us started?
Sure. I work with an organization called Start Garden, and we've been doing early stage investing for a number of years now. And in particular, we've started a consortium called Seamless. And this is a consortium bringing together large global enterprises like Steelcase, Meyer, Amway, and our large local health system, Spectrum Health, Priority Health, Faurecia as well. And we're really interested in breaking down, or at least making more permeable, the barrier between these large enterprises that have a huge amount of capability and a huge amount of knowledge contained within them, and the sort of pirate ships outside, the startups, that can benefit from that knowledge, those channels to market, and the enterprise can also benefit from that new approach, that new business model. So that's where I come to the Internet of Things, is seeing the power of startups paired with corporate partners to make these technologies and enable new and interesting business models.
At Faurecia, if you're not familiar, Faurecia is the world's fifth largest automotive supplier. Our main product areas are automotive seating, interiors, and emission controls. And so we really impact virtually every car company in the world. One out of three cars worldwide has our product embedded in that vehicle. I lead an advanced group focused on innovation, very much about open innovation, working with universities, research labs, and a large focus on startup companies. And that's why we're connected with Rick and Seamless in that activity. But we really come at this from a point of how do we look beyond and understand where we are today within our product categories, and understanding where things are going from mobility into the future with things changing dramatically, and how do we start to connect in a very meaningful way products within our area, within the vehicle in general, and make that very meaningful to the end users, which ultimately is what we're really striving to do.
Rob, can you, just to give us a little bit of context, can you give us an example of something you're connecting to the internet?
Yeah, we have a product called Active Wellness. Active Wellness is a seat that has sensors in it that depicts, can monitor your heart rate, respiration rate. It can determine through that information that you're drowsy or that you're stressed, and then create a closed loop system and either calm you down through warming in the seat in a light massage, or it can cool the seat and create a very invigorating massage that can wake you up. Now, the connection sounds great, doesn't it? The connection to the internet is that data is very rich data. And we've worked through the seamless activity with this technology startup company called Hawana that was incubated through Start Garden and through the seamless effort to help really mature that technology and align it to automotive. I would also say what's so unique about working in this consortium is that technology has a lot of opportunity in office furniture and within the home environment as well. And that's what allows us to be very collaborative and to make that connection.
Okay, thanks. Bryan Jones.
I am part of JR Automation. JR Automation is a company that builds manufacturing systems, manufacturing platforms, and we are using the internet extensively to connect those platforms to our customers and to the people that we supply those quote-unquote solutions to. The Internet of Things has also got a very big role in changing the kind of platforms that we build, in that the platforms are becoming very, very adaptive to what it is that's going on in them and the kind of products that they're producing. Internet of Things and using that technology, if you will, or using that mindset is allowing us to build systems that are very adaptive, systems that can change very quickly, systems that adapt to what it is that the customers are looking for and adapts to the conditions around them. It is no longer competitive, if you will, to build solutions that just provide a given solution and a solution that has boundaries around it. And the Internet of Things certainly is driving two-way communication within our systems and really changing the way that we think about doing that. We've experienced explosive growth over doing that. The last 7 years, 25% year-over-year growth. We're about 900 people now, whose average age is about 30. So a very young company and very poised, if you will, to take advantage of what's going on.
Thanks. And Brian Steketee.
Sure. Modustri, I think I'm the pirate ship on the panel. We are a startup. We were founded a few years back. Really, our focus was on how can we find unique ways to surface information, collect data. It started off in the heavy equipment space, where we were trying to solve a few problems there at helping them manage and optimize machine health and performance. That led to a natural progression of manual data collection into where the Internet of Things plays into our space and to automating those processes. We think about the technology and the platforms that we're building as ways to amplify human capability. How can we surface the right information at the right time to make somebody's job easier to do? We also, as the pirate ship, we did put together a strategic alliance with Caterpillar, another Midwest company, last year, which has been a great thing for us. It's enabled us to see some pretty explosive growth, although 900 people makes 35 seem a little small. We were just 3 the year before, so there you go. But in any case, the Internet of Things is very important to us, and again, we're now seeing applications for how do we monitor equipment to make operators better at their jobs? How do we monitor inventory in stores, in retail, and in other spaces now that enable us to help make store managers better at their jobs? And so we just see tremendous opportunity in connecting a lot of these assets and some of the not as sexy spaces, if you will, manufacturing and so forth, that we find a lot of excitement with, and that's really what our focus is.
Thank you. Thank you. So one of the things that's emerged around this conversation of Internet of Things is smart things and dumb things. Dumb things being objects that are not connected to the internet, smart things being objects that are. A component of this is software meets hardware, which most industries have been dealing with for 20, 30 years. But something's different this time. Now we're talking about not just software as an operating system for hardware. We're talking about software as a networking system. What are the tensions that you all experience as we start to bring these objects online and network them? The internet's essentially coming out of the digital realm and into our physical world. Anyone want to start?
Yeah, I kind of jump on that a little bit. That things are changing so quickly right now. From a technology point of view, in the digital world, the change is happening so quickly. Things that we built 1-2 years ago, we would not consider building the same way today. Because the technology is moving so quickly, it's important to embrace what's going on there and stay up with it. The other part that I would add to that is that the systems are getting much, much smarter. The exchange of data back and forth is allowing you to do things that you never would have done 2 years ago. It's not just a point A, point B kind of thing. You're actually sensing what's going on. You're figuring out what's going on. The systems are becoming more intuitive in deciding what needs to be done next. And it just continues to drive a different methodology in order for success.
Well, let me pile on that and tie into a conversation we were having earlier. I think what we observe a lot as investors in trying to bridge this big enterprise, small startup space is it's much a cultural issue as anything. So, how have you really tried to empower your organization to be able to work in a much more fluid way and adopt these things and think about your organization as a series of platforms, really, that people can build on?
It's platforms and it's relationships. It is enabling people to interact with each other. It's enabling a company to interact with other companies and to embrace the pirate ships, if you will, and figure out what it is that they bring to the party. How do we all work together to find the best possible solution and to move, if you will, the whole technology, the whole component forward? And it's through building those bridges. There are technology bridges that need to be built between systems. And everyone's talking about they want to own that communication. They want to own this. They want to own that. If someone's talking about owning something, you've already lost this battle. This is not about owning something. This is about partnerships. This is about building bridges between companies. This is about building bridges between technologies. And it's about building bridges between people. Rick said it earlier, there's so many great things being said. It comes down to us. It comes down to our relationships and how we build off of each other and how we're going to interact with each other to make that next solution and to make that next bridge.
Well, and I think it's our biggest challenge in the state of Michigan because it is sort of our mindset of what business is, and like you hit the nail on the head, like I want to own this. So when we think of a big successful business, it's somebody that owns something and can forecast for 20 years that X number of people are going to buy Y number of an object in Z color, and that doesn't operate anymore.
You can't measure innovation, with a 10-year DCF. We talk about that often, right? And when you think of culture, and I can, from our experience even with Caterpillar, a phenomenal company in the Midwest. When you're trying to bring two cultures together, if you don't create the right safe spaces and you put the right incentives around ensuring that you can co-collaborate and actually live into open innovation, it is very difficult to get product or technology to market that's relevant today.
And I would add one thing, just as a bit of a shift on that, is the other tension or challenge is once you can connect everything, assuming we can solve some of these issues, connecting things that create real value for the end consumers is a very difficult task. We need to really understand consumer needs and keep the focus on the consumer and make sure that what we're doing, all the challenges that we need to do as industry and startups and companies, is we don't forget that it's really about creating value for the end consumer.
So, love that statement, but I want to go back a minute to partnerships. So it's interesting, the collection of you as a group of people here, because when we look at partnerships, some interesting things are happening within your organizations. Frequently, I stand in front of large billion-dollar organizations and I hear this story. Well, what's happening to us is there's a major consolidation of these 2 or 3 players happening over here. And when company A buys company B, they're going to cut the bottom out of their cost structure and we're going to lose market share because we won't be able to compete and blah, blah, blah. But over here, we've got hundreds, if not thousands, of startups emerging, and they're all undermining and creating new values, so we don't know how to even keep up with what's going on over there. And what they end up doing is getting whiplashed and bounce between looking at this competitor, that competitor, this competitor, and they go nowhere. They're just frozen by the competitive landscape because it doesn't behave like it used to. Brian, I think you're an interesting starting point here in that you've chosen to build your business through a strategic partnership with an enterprise as a startup. Tell us about that decision and what the benefits of it are.
It was definitely a long journey, but I'll build on what Rick said in that we recognized we needed a channel. We understood a very specific problem space. We understood that we had a great product and MVP that would solve it. However, without that channel and that support to commercialize it globally, we recognized with the size team we had it was a big rate limiter. And it does build from there on both. There are always going to be unique challenges until you change the dynamics and paradigm of the cultures in these organizations. And in Michigan, I think we feel that not invented here syndrome, like probably we see at most all large organizations. So we do run into that challenge on and often. So it's how do you measure the success of the relationship? How do you create the right KPIs that ultimately are actually focused on culture instead of just looking at what the bottom line is in a relationship? And that's something that we've embraced with CAT and look to embrace that with our other partners. And ultimately, the ability to create an ecosystem, that's one of our opportunities we talked about a little earlier in Michigan. We have the engineering talent, we have the manufacturing capability, we have the best test bed and pilot opportunities you could ever ask for in our state. The question is, can we work together to create the right open, safe spaces for innovation so that small and large companies can both benefit? One of the challenges that we found early on, and one that still guides our ethos, is we have product engineers that don't want to be consultants. And anytime they feel like one of the programs or technologies we're working on is falling into that camp, they walk. So it's how do you also create fair incentives that reasonably reward each partnership in a way that enables entrepreneurs to still be entrepreneurs, but also enables the organization that's providing the channel, potentially the funding, that there's a reasonable, rational benefit for both.
Now, Rob, let's go to you next, because you're kind of coming at this from the opposite side. You and I have had discussions about when we're talking about a need to be a more agile and adaptive organization. Talk about how partnerships play into you at Faurecia and how you go about things.
Yeah, we're really trying to engage with startup companies and new technology, but it's a very daunting task for a startup to come to an automotive company or supplier and engage in the business, because the product life cycle is very long. It's a 5 to 7 year development process just to get it to commercialization. So we need to recognize that if we go with them, if a startup comes with us as a complete strategic, that they're not going to create revenue for 5 to 7 years, and they'll be out of business before we can commercialize their technology. So we work with Steelcase, Meyer, Amway, and the companies that were talked about through the Seamless initiative, because we're passionate about the technology. We want that technology in automotive. If we don't help nurture that technology into other industries, it will never see the automotive world. It's going to be a very difficult challenge. So we like that partnership because it really focuses on, one, the end user, because it really is about a life and the day in life of an end user, and two, it helps those technologies find revenue streams that are going to keep them healthy and then ultimately align with what we're focused in automotive.
Excellent. So Rick, when you launched Seamless, clearly you saw an opportunity to create a different type of partnership amongst organizations. How did that start?
Well, I can take very little credit for it. I'm very blessed to work with great people, and all my work with Start Garden starts from a healthy respect for my own ignorance and embracing of that, actually. So just trying to bring other people around that have a lot of knowledge. So it was a process of kind of approaching these companies and laying out the benefits of approaching this as a consortium. As Rob was saying, it's different companies can engage with these technologies at different stages. They take their commercialization cycles are varying lengths. So if you get a bunch of non-directly competitive companies together around an effort like this, you can create. We've already seen a lot of value because it is complementary.
So what are the other tensions we feel in these types of partnerships? Just kind of an open question. What are the other tensions that, as as different businesses are trying to engage in these types of partnerships, what do people need to know that they're going to run into?
Well, I would loop back to your earlier question about, or statement about the companies that kind of find themselves frozen and whiplash between the two. I'm a huge believer, from our perspective as investors, in just, you're not going to be able to plan your way out of that situation. So you need to just start launching little things. So whether it's partnerships with, in existing kind of industry stuff, or with startups, whatever, you just need to start trying little things and see what emerges from it. Because, as everybody said, things are evolving rapidly. None of us are smart enough to see into the future and know what's going to happen. And so, having those ships launched is valuable. Anyway, sorry.
So that's great. Thank you. Rob, you brought up a couple of comments about creating value for the end user. And Bryan Jones, in particular, your business is related to supply chain innovation, right? So who are your users, and how does the Internet of Things impact your users? Like, how does this drive value through the value chain?
Well, so manufacturing processes are getting more and more difficult. It used to be that part A was put together with part B, and you had a screw that held the two of them together. Now there are adhesives that require a different process. There's all kinds of things that are happening now, and there's processes that are driving things that can't even be done by a person any longer. The environment's hazardous. There's things going on around it. You have to do things differently. And so many of these processes now, in order to be competitive in the marketplace, require processes that go beyond traditional thinking. And those processes drive process control. They drive that you have to be intuitive about what's going on in the process. You have to adjust as you go, whether it's laser welding, whether it's whether it's ablation. There's all kinds of different things going on. And it doesn't matter what industry you look at, whether it's food, pharmaceutical, consumer products, automotive certainly drives a lot of different things. But the Internet of Things allows for two-way communication to occur within equipment and in environments, and it allows you to do more. It allows you to do more. It allows the systems to be more adaptive, and systems are going away and being replaced more and more by platforms that allow for adaptability the next day, not down the road or not when a model changes over, but literally the next day, whether it's robotics, whether it's vision-guided things. There was one of the futurists was on his slide was that 2 to 5 years we'll have robots that are self-programming. He's about 2 to 5 years behind the curve right now. It is amazing how fast, again, the technology continues to move. Is that?
Excellent. Brian.
Just to add to that point around some of the tension that we see is we all have a tendency as organizations, we want to own it. We talked about this a little bit on the panel. And I think we lose sight of the customer. And I'll give an example on a work site, job site solution, right? You have a foreman, you have someone who's actually there managing 100 pieces of equipment. They're all owned by or manufactured by different providers. Yet, so you might have literally 15 different applications you're trying to manage in order to keep your job working. There's a real opportunity, and an opportunity I think for us in Michigan to really step back and understand how do we build off of, Rick, like what you're doing with the consortium to create the attempt to create standards, to create platforms so people can jump on, contribute, add value where they can, and ultimately not lose sight that sometimes that one customer, they have other equipment, other needs in that space, and the more we can simplify it so we all don't have 200 apps on our phone to try to log into, I think is a real opportunity that we can harness with the talent we have in Michigan.
Absolutely. So, Rick, at Seamless, you've got a variety of organizations that kind of own different domains, right? Some that own the home, some that own the car. Faurecia, Rob, you guys have a huge influence in an automobile. So there are all these environments that you're working with. When you talk about creating value for users, how does that happen across the platform that you've created of Seamless?
So it's as far as how the consortium works, or?
Well, I think how does it deliver value to the end users of the consortium members?
Well, the most kind of direct thing that happens with Seamless is that twice a year we have classes of startups, and these startups all receive investment from the Seamless Consortium, and then they're resident, or at least parts of their team are resident, all together in downtown Grand Rapids with us for about 3 months. During that time, they have really deep connections with all of the consortium enterprise partners. And it's just that sort of scrum and that serendipitous interaction that creates a lot of unexpected value and brings these technologies into domains that they wouldn't have necessarily been able to penetrate. So being able to get into automotive and things like that. So
if I can interject for a second, when we think in terms of Internet of Things and these shared users, one of the things that I've heard is all these environments share a collection of users. And the Internet of Things has this powerful opportunity to connect these users across environments. How do you see that playing out through Seamless? And Rob, maybe you can speak to this as well.
Yeah, I would say, I would just add, sorry, that just to think about the environment, the culture that is built around Seamless. If it wasn't that there was trust among all of the participants, it wouldn't be successful. So it's clearly, we have to be collaborative. We have to think about it from an end user perspective at the end of the day. And we need to be, as Faurecia automotive supplier, we need to be aware and thinking about our partners in this and how do we help them and benefit them. Because we know that through that interaction, that collaboration, we have to have trust that good things will occur. Good things for the startup, good things for Michigan, good things for our economy, good things for Faurecia. And so if you don't build that collaboration and environment of trust, that will not work. So it's clearly what Rick and the team have done is built an environment around that trust, and that's key.
Well, and it's also a really healthy level of respect for design, kind of, I'd say, across and empathy across that whole consortium, too. And that's another place where I think Michigan can really punch above its weight in terms of our concentration of design and designers.
So, Internet of Things. It's what we're here to talk about. Talked a bit about partnerships and how partnerships are advancing the ability of companies to work within Internet of Things, as it's a largely unknown space. Why should this group of people care about the Internet of Things, and how's it going to change their world?
I would just say that, I mean, it's going to impact what we do, and Michigan is really about, within the context of this discussion, Michigan has such a strong presence within making things, and we have, with confidence, have a huge role to play within this topic. If you think just from an iconic standpoint, where Silicon Valley has a lot to do with the development of technology and the internet, they need this collaboration for that to be successful. We need that collaboration for this to be successful. It will create huge opportunities, and our industry will evolve, whether we want it to or not. It's evolving very fast, as we've heard throughout the morning. And we need to have the mindset of the collaboration and the confidence of what we do in Michigan. And I think it just creates huge opportunities for us moving forward.
Yeah, there are companies and capabilities represented by folks in this room that haven't necessarily thought of themselves as platforms for people to build value alongside or on top of. You think about iOS as a platform, and we think of software platforms a lot, but as that software infiltrates the physical world and all the physical making thing capabilities that are resident in this room, all of those things that weren't really thought of as platforms can be and in fact will be platforms. Now the question is whether we're going to rise to the challenge or other people are going to take the opportunity from us.
I would just also add, I mean, the automotive industry has gone through many disruptions in the past, and it's you know, we've gone through different phases, and we're at a phase where we are going through major disruption, probably more disruption in the next few years than I've seen in my whole career now in automotive. And we need to be open and prepared for that disruption. We've been successful to manage and work through that in the past, and I certainly see that we're prepared to do that moving forward.
You look at our base, our installed base of manufacturers and just organizations in Michigan, and every one of them will be touched in some way, shape, or form by IoT. There will be sensors on everything from a CNC mill tracking and looking at the amount of fluid used or the tool life that's still left, through to the conveyor belts on useful life left, all the way through that when that product is shipped, whether it's a consumer or a commercial product. We as makers, I think you said it right, of things and have this base, have a great opportunity to capitalize on what is a tremendous market. You're seeing the valley pulling, and I think to your point, what better place to provide the engineering expertise that we can bring to the table by partnering more effectively and bringing our ecosystem, building it out in Michigan to support more organizations and more seamlesses, if you will, but also learning how to branch out to bring value back to the state.
So to bring value back to the state, what kind of infrastructures, what kind of policies aren't there that need to be created in order to really accelerate and put Michigan in a leadership position to advance the Internet of Things and to take full advantage of it?
We talked a little about this backstage. It's hard, right? Especially when you're bringing large and small organizations together to try to innovate. How do we change policy in Michigan to incentivize those kinds of relationships to help create those safe zones, whether it's the cities or other locations across Michigan, to really try to empower, recognize, and reward the behaviors that we're going to need to see to build our own ecosystems out? I think there's a real opportunity for us to get ahead of that. That's not something you're seeing in other places across the country right now.
Other thoughts?
I was just going to say that, Faurecia is a very global company. We have innovation activity going on, certainly in Michigan. We have activity Silicon Valley, Toronto, Canada, Tel Aviv, Israel, throughout Europe, throughout Asia. We have a scouting network that's feeding everything in, and innovation is occurring throughout the world, and we can't forget that. We can't be focused on Michigan to a point where we don't have our eyes wide open for the rest of the world. But Michigan can play a very specific part in the integration of that information, and I think that's really where the opportunity is. But we have to create environments, policies, activities like Seamless and others in Detroit. We need to keep empowering those to be much more active and much more vibrant and much more open to that kind of thinking.
I guess I would just add to that the integration, we believe as a company, is really where the magic exists. Being able to take what a lot of different people are doing and a lot of different small companies, whether it's a Spin Dance in Holland, whether it's your company, whether it's companies in Detroit that we work with, it is phenomenally powerful in integrating what smaller companies are doing into that solution that provides opportunity for a large and growing customer base. I think anything that we can do to foster that and to continue to develop the Michigan culture of, there's a lot of small pieces that can come together to provide really amazing solutions, it would do well for this state.
So we had a slide. We'll ask that you put the slide up because we've kind of stumbled into this conversation around, this was a Computer World magazine article that was published that shows a series of essentially a lot of Detroit automotive companies entering and opening hubs in the Silicon Valley in California. This is sobering, a little bit alarming, and we've already started to talk about what do we do about this? How do we approach this? How should we be thinking about this trend of Michigan companies moving out west, and how do we manage this situation moving forward? Any further thoughts?
Yeah, I would say, to me, this is not alarming. This is exciting and creates the potential of the integration that we talked about. I mean, in the 80s, there was the movement of design to LA. LA was a hub of automotive culture. Every car company created a design studio in LA. I worked there for a year, and I was a part of that and understanding of how that progressed. We didn't see automotive migrating to LA, It was capitalizing on something that was really had a lot of global energy and excitement, and we leveraged that, and all of the car companies leveraged that to create new innovations and new excitement for the vehicles. And what we're seeing in Silicon Valley is exactly the same thing. There's a great energy and technology focus that's going on, and we all need to participate and be aware of it and be confident that what we have is something that we can really offer as far as the overall user experience of mobility, because that's what we really own within the context of automotive companies in Michigan.
Yeah, I think the Valley is the place to go for software. Nobody denies that. I think that we're kidding ourselves if we think we can somehow become the next version of that. I do think that there's an opportunity for us to pick off people as they boomerang later in life, but that's a whole other kind of subject because the cost of living out there is just out of control. But we continue to make things. We have the physical engineers and the know-how here to, as Rob said, kind of bring these things together. So what we need here are leaders that are willing to take the risks on working with startups or funding startups or actually launching startups themselves that are going to create this future. Again, this is not something we can create some 300-page business plan out of. It's going to be 300 different efforts, and a few of them will make it to the end and be here and create that next wave of value.
Sometimes say that competition is the enemy of creativity. And I look at that chart or that slide as well and think that's amazing, that's great. It says that we are adapting and evolving and learning how to co-create and work. And I think Rick, you just said it best. Let's face it, they're great at software there, right? Look what Tesla's done with their interfaces and the automated updating and so forth. And you look at that map now and you think of what great innovations are going to come out of those types of learnings. We have a role to play in this process. And I think it's about us investing in what we do best in Michigan and staying focused there, but also finding ways to look outside, to put the right partnerships together to as we said earlier, to really create a much larger ecosystem that enables us to thrive in this environment.
Embracing what's there, bringing it back and integrating it into the products that we build every day. And it doesn't matter if it's furniture, if it's food, if it's automotive, whatever it is that we do, embracing that and getting to know that and figuring out what component we can pull away from that and bring it back to Michigan in the things that we do every day. We manufacture, we innovate from a manufacturing point of view, and we build things that ultimately the software's got to go through in order to create some kind of a user experience. It's a great opportunity for us to continue to grow and expand.
Okay. A closing thought from each of you. Really quickly, try to think in terms of a word or a phrase. I want to offer you an opportunity to challenge this audience. Here we sit in front of an audience of leaders in our state in a variety of different capacities. So regarding the Internet of Things, what would be the challenge you would pose to this group that helps us enable the Internet of Things and the opportunity it sets before us moving forward? Anyone want to start?
Connect. Connect with people, connect with your suppliers, connect with your customers, connect with those around you that can bring value to your organization, and understand very clearly that connection is a two-way street, not a directive. A connection, a true two-way connection.
I would say confidence. We should be confident in the infrastructure, the talent that we have in Michigan in the region. And if that moves to arrogance, which has happened in the past, then we will be hurt through that. If we are confident and we're, as you said, are connected and collaborative, we will succeed through that.
I think the key is step up to the bat, take one swing, one shot, one initiative, one approach, one collaboration, one partnership, learn something in this space that you're not currently doing in the organization.
Yeah, what's the next thing you can do, whatever scale that is. There is some scale that you can move something forward on, so give that a whack.
Stop having meetings and do something. Excellent. Hey, let's give our panelists a round of applause. Thank you.